plants in pots. We apologize for the short delay, but we have with us today Miguel Braganza, who is a true friend of the plant kingdom. Miguel was born and has lived in Maksa, Goa, except for his 6-year study, which he did in Bangalore in agriculture. And it has been his vision to have a College of Agriculture in Goa. And this was realized in August 2015. He has taught horticulture at the college and also helped to set up its systems and keep it organic. Miguel has served in the Directorate of Agriculture and helped to introduce cashew grafts and mushroom cultivation in Goa. He has edited 18 books on agriculture and writes a column on plants. He began with GT Weekender in 1992, and then the Herald, and now he's with the Naveen Times since 2015. So we're very happy to have you here with us today, Miguel Braganza. Over to you.
Thank you, Sheena, and welcome to all the participants today in this collaborative learning cafe, a process of co-learning about plants. We'll be looking briefly about those fruit plants that can be grown in pots. We know we grow different kinds of plants in pots, but this particular session is focused onto fruit plants in pots, and we will see what can be grown actually in Goa and what has been grown to give us a feel of what can be the way forward. We will see what plants have been grown, and I would appreciate your feedback on what specific things you would like to know more about this tomorrow. So we'll begin straight away with the fruits this season most of us have been eating and want to eat, and that's the mango. Next one, please. Savio, next slide, please. So the collaborative learning cafe, we are going to learn first about how to grow fruits. All of us want fruits which are organic. Most of the fruits that you get in the market, whether it's mangoes or papayas or bananas, are fed with various kinds of fertilizers and chemicals to make them look good and not necessarily be good. So how can we grow this at home? And home today quite often is an apartment. It's maybe on the 2nd floor, it may be on the 8th floor. So can you grow this in a pot? Now, mango is one plant which people don't believe can be grown in a pot. But here you can see a photograph of a mango, small plant bearing mangoes in a pot in the house of Oscar Silveira at Borda in Margam. So many people have grown various kinds of fruits, but mango, very few have grown in Goa. I remember when I was doing my research in Bangalore, there was one person doing his PhD research, Raju Kurian from Kerala, who had 40 plants of mango of different varieties in pots, and he was looking after them, and all of them were giving mangoes. He was, of course, doing a study on dwarfing of mango trees. You can grow mangoes in pots, and this is an example here in Goa. I'm not giving an example from Bangalore, Calcutta, or somewhere else. This is right here in Goa, and you can grow a mango plant in pot. It just requires a little bit more care that we'll be talking about later on. There are other plants that we can grow also. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So this is a chiku plant in my own house. Growing it in a pot. You can see the fruits there, the small fruits coming up. Now the question that often that is asked is, if you grow fruit plants in pots, will they be big or will they be small? Now the trees have got the ability to produce fruits, and the size of the fruit will depend on the number of fruits it bears and the size of the tree. So if it's a big tree, it can bear maybe 1,000 chicus. If it's a small tree and it bears 20 chicus, there'll be the normal size. If it bears 50 chicus, there'll be half the size. It happens even when our big mango trees bear. If they bear lots of mangoes, they become smaller, or lots of chicus, they become smaller. So amount of nutrition that's available to the plant for it to grow. And depending on the size of the plant, you can get the fruit that you want. So chicus in a 2-foot wide pot, that's 60 centimeters wide and 60 centimeters deep, you can expect to get 25 to 30 normal size chicus if the plant is about 1 meter tall above the thing. That's about 3.5 feet higher than the pot. So 2 feet of pot, 3.5 feet above that is 5.5 feet, about a human height. Someone who's 5'6", that would be the size of the plant. Then you look at it in the pot, and that would give you about 25 to 30 normal size chicus. It's possible. It's something that I'm getting at home. So that's very much possible right here in Goa. I'm located in Mapsa, and it's possible all across the Konkan. Now this pot can be kept on the ground. It can be kept on a paved area or in mud. It can be kept in a balcony. It can be kept on a terrace. Only care to be taken is if it's in the balcony, then that it should get sufficient amount of light. Watering, manuring we'll be talking about, and that's something that we'll look at. Next one, please. So this is a carambola plant, again in our house, 1.5 foot by 1.5 foot. This is a rectangular pot it is in. You can see the pale colored carambolas here. About 50 fruit growing in the pot. Carambola doesn't require much nutrition. It's a very watery fruit. So about 50 fruit can come in a 1.5 foot by 1.5 foot or a 2 foot diameter pot. And very easily you can make either your breakfast, or you can slice it into your salads, or you can make pickles or jams or juices, whatever you like. So if you're living in a building, you can have this on your terrace. Or if you have a west-facing veranda, you can grow it there. So next one, please. So watery rose apple is something that we think of in March, April, May. The Malay apple, or the zam that we call. It's something that you can very easily grow in a pot. It grows into a big tree, but it is amenable to pruning. You can prune it, keep it short, and you can grow it in your house, balcony, or terrace. Right here in Goa, this particular plant is right at my house. Next one. So blueberries, something again growing here, more of an exotic plant, nice fruits which look like grapes almost. This plant is again in Margaon. You can see the flowers over here and the fruits which are still immature. When they ripen, they'll become blue or almost black. So this is a plant, you can see it is still in the polybag. This polybag is 1 foot in diameter, still in the polybag, and it's bearing fruits. And you can see it's on paver blocks. It's not in mud. The roots are not gone in, and you can get fruits. Next one. So custard apple is another plant that it can grow. I will be showing you more slides of this tomorrow. Custard apple, whether it's a green type or the red type or the purple type, custard apple or Sweetop. We are quite familiar now with Soursop because of cancer and its potential to reduce the cancer. But custard apple is something that has been with us. It's a small plant. Very easily in a 1 foot diameter pot also you can grow it. If you can give it a 2 foot diameter pot, although better. And you can get up to 20 to 25 fruits on one plant in a pot. So this is something that we can grow. Next slide, please. Strawberry is a small plant. Very easy to grow. You can even grow it in a tray. You can see the small fruits over here. You can grow it in a smaller vase, maybe 10-inch diameter or 1 foot diameter, and still it will grow. And it fruits very easily, winter time, if you want fruits. So you can easily get strawberries to fruit here in Goa. Next one. Growing fruit plants is not rocket science. One good example of this, and a person who proudly speaks about it, is Katie Almeida from Damon, Raya, very close to Pedro Arupe Center in Raya. He was for many years a Fiat car mechanic in Bombay. Came down in Goa, read an article that I had written that time as Green Thumb in the Herald, which is a popular paper in South Goa especially. And he had Soursop plants in his backyard, which no one used to eat the fruit. So he offered the fruit to his neighbors, the younger children, and told them, spit out the seeds and bring the seeds back to me. He raised seedlings and he sold. Then he started growing plants. He put them into cement bags rolled into half with soil inside, and he saw that in 2 years' time, he was getting fruits for the plant while it is still in the bag. And while he was selling plants in the poly bag, small ones, for 100 rupees, this would sell for 1,500. But he discovered that you could grow fruit plants in bags or pots. And this is something that he has been popularizing there. So a person who was for 40 years a car mechanic retires, comes home, and becomes a very prosperous fruit grower. He does grafting, and his mango grafts, which are very authentic, he sells at 1,000 rupees a piece, can make 4 or 5 lakhs very easily in the season by selling his plants. So it's not rocket science growing fruit plants. Anybody can do it, and a person, whether he's 5 years old or he's 60 years old, can learn afresh and do it. So Katie Almeida is one person who's been doing it in Raya, in South Goa. There are others who are doing here in North Goa. So it's possible and it's very easy to grow. And this is the basis for growing fruit plants in pots. You require the plant first, the proper plant, the proper variety to grow. Next slide, please. So plants in polybags, 8 inches or 10 inches in diameter, different kinds of plants. These are the best plants to pot and grow to get fruits within a year. So this is an exhibition you might realize if you have been there to Sanskriti Bhavan. This is an exhibition there where these plants were on sale. And these are the kind of plants that we will use for transplanting. Very important to remember when you put this plant in a pot that you should remove the polythene bag. The roots have to grow beyond it, and that's something you need to look at. Next one, please. So this is the earlier form of grafting that we used to call. Now we no longer call it grafting. This is a gutti or air layer where mud is applied to a section of the bark which is cut from the plant in a ring, and you get roots over here. So this does not have the primary tap root. It has more of the secondary roots, not fibrous roots, because this is a dicot, but it has smaller roots, and it's easier to grow this in a pot. This girl here is a person who's done her BCom and MBA, no science background, no biology after SSC, and is a person who has learned this and has taught many people in Bombay. In Dadar, she's the one who has been conducting courses under the name Alcoholics. It's an organization that has grown. And so any person can learn and do this growing in pots, grafting, layering, all these things are very easy to do. Next slide, please. So what do we need to know when we want to grow plants in pots, especially when we're looking at fruit plants? One is what size of pot, what type of pot to use. Whether you want to use a clay pot or a plastic pot, or you want to use a HDP pot or barrel, or what you want to use. So that is a container which is your first consideration. And other than growing strawberry and such soft plants, for fruit plants, basically it is good to have 18-inch diameter to 24-inch diameter. That's 45 centimeters to 60 centimeters diameter and that pots. I'll talk more about that. Second is how to prepare a proper pot mix or the soil that is going to go into the pot. This is after you have provided for drainage in the pot. Next is selection of which fruit plants can be grown. The best plants are like guavas or mulberry, which you can keep on trimming. Mango is a little bit difficult to do, and cashew is a little bit difficult to do. You require a little bit more attention if you want to grow it for a longer time. But limes, lemons, if you want to grow, or mulberry, you want to grow, chiku, very easy to grow it in a pot. How to transplant a graft into a pot is something that you need to look at, especially if it's booty. Then it has to be first acclimatized to growing in soil when it was earlier growing on a plant, and then what kind of manuring, how to do it, all these things is something we pay attention. It may get to problems like mealybugs and scales and such things. This insect pest is something we need to look at. What are the initial challenges in adjusting the potted plant to your new environment is something that you need to look at. And the care, mulching, trimming, manuring, pruning. Without doubt, you cannot keep a potted plant forever in a balcony or a terrace. At some stage, it will become too seasoned, what we say June. And that is the time you can donate it to someone to put it into the ground and let it grow into a normal big tree. So just that you have pruned and kept it small for some time doesn't mean that it will not grow. So disposing the plant should not be into the landfill or into the garbage dump. Next slide, please. So here you have different size pots here, 1.5 foot diameter, 2 foot diameter, different kinds of plastic also, the virgin material, the recycled material in black, and the other materials that you require, a small sprayer to spray the plant. When you require maybe some copper compound to control fungus, or maybe you can directly go organic and use things like trichoderma, compost that is required to grow it. You can also grow strawberries and such plants in a grow bag like this. So these are two of my students who have learned this art, and now they are doing the training for other people. Incidentally, now they are a couple also. So this was a demonstration done when they were still students. And this was done in Sukur. You can see Father Santan Carvalho over there, who was a big patron for these demonstrations and hands-on skills. Next one, please. So pot diameter, whether you're looking at 12 inches or whether you're looking at 24 inches, is something that you'll do. Maybe first you'll grow the plant in a small pot and then transfer it to a bigger pot, which you call potting on. This can be done so that initially you can have more number of plants. It's easier for you to take care of a plant in a smaller pot. You require less of investment, you require less of soil, compost, all these things. So you can start off in a 12-inch pot and then graduate to a 24-inch pot maybe 2 years later. So this is possible, or you can go directly into a bigger pot. But just like spending a cold winter in a house, a smaller house is better than a bigger house to keep warm. So also for plants, if the plant is small, a smaller pot is better than using a bigger pot. It's just creating a comfort zone for the plant that is not one big ocean, but it's there in a small compact area. And so you may prefer to use a plant in a smaller pot to begin with and then grow it to a bigger one. Next slide, please. So the very first and most important step that quite often is ignored, and later you have all kinds of problems in growing the plant, is the drainage. If the drainage hole is at the bottom, then the crocks or broken tile bits should be put at the base to prevent the hole from blocking. Now, when you put tile bits, this tile bit should be slightly curved once, not straight, smooth tile. So there is a gap underneath. So the concave side of the broken tile will go lower and the convex side will be on top. So there's a small gap between the tile and the hole, and the water can seep out from there. If the hole is on the side, then this crock will be held vertically or inclined on the side. So very important that you should not let the drainage hole be blocked by the soil and compost that you're going to put. As an exercise of ample caution, we quite often put grit or khadi or any smaller stones on top so that this acts like a sieve for the soil and prevents it from going down and blocking the hole. This is something very simple, but often ignored, and then what will happen is the water will stagnate in the pot. And the pot, instead of helping the plant to grow, will actually drown it. The roots breathe. We have mangroves growing in areas which are waterlogged, but they have breathing roots coming out because all require air to breathe. Without respiration, there is no growth. And what we learn in school, that plants take in carbon dioxide and give out oxygen, does not work 24/7. In the night, plants grow, they require oxygen. So that is something that we need to look at. Next slide, please. So soil is to us an abbreviation of source of infinite life. So the life of the plant is dependent on the type of soil it has. And our life and life of the herbivores depends on the type of plants that grow. And for the carnivores, it's the type of food that the herbivores eat that decides that. So finally, life on Earth is decided by the soil. And so we have to pay attention to what is there in the soil that we are using. Next one, please. So in nature, you will get soil this way, which is divided into different horizons. Technicalities aside, it looks like a cake with icing. And the icing on the top is the topsoil, which quite often in this time of the year, with the heavy rains, it just gets washed off. It takes billions of years to form it and it gets washed off. And this soil is something that we would require to use for potting. If we use the subsoil, the B horizon that we talk about, then we need to add compost, rotten leaves, cow dung, or something to enrich it with nitrogen. This is already having, this won't have the organic carbon. So how to amend it is something that we'll look at. Next one, please. So soil has three major constituents. One is the sand, which is from 0.2 millimeters to 2 millimeters. It's two sections in your foot ruler. Silt, which is from 0.2 to 0.05. And clay is very fine particle. Clay is what we use to make statues, especially Ganapati coming up in a month's time or two. So very fine thing is called clay. The intermediate is silt, and the bigger one is sand. And the mixture of these three determines how long water will take to infiltrate it, to percolate inside, and how much time it will take to drain out. Next one. So if you do a simple experiment of putting all this in a glass or into a jar and stir up the soil and let it settle down, the grit and the sand will settle within the first minute. The silt, which is smaller and lighter, will take a longer time to settle. Pusharo is what we call it in Konkani. And the clay may take a long time. It may take 10 hours. It may take 2 days. It may take 3 days. And sometimes, if it's very fine colloidal, it may not settle down unless you put a little bit of alum into it. So clay is a thing that gives you the turbidity of water. The muddiness of water is basically due to clay. So this part is very sticky. It can hold water for a very long time. The silt is the intermediate that we would like, and sand helps in drainage. Next one. So how do we make out whether the soil is good or bad? The scientists can do all the separation in a laboratory, but for us in the house, we don't have all those fine sieves to know what is soil, what is sand, what is what. So what we do is the soil that we have prepared to put into the pot is something that we'll make into a ball, make it slightly wet, roll it like how you make a chapati roll, and then put it between the two palms of your hand and just rub it this way till it forms a ribbon. If the ribbon is between 2 inches to 6 inches, it's good soil, it's loamy soil. If it's very long, then clay content is more. And if it doesn't form good ribbon, more than 2 inches, then it has too much sand and grit. So accordingly, we work on what should be added to improve it. Next one. So sandy soil is the one which contains more of sand, maybe a little bit of silt, and often no clay at all. The loamy soil contains sand, contains clay, and contains silt. This is the best soil for growing plants. And the clay soil obviously contains a very high clay content. This will be the sticky soil. This is the soil which, if it's there on the path that you're walking, is where your foot will sink in. This will remain as muck on your shoes or sandals when you walk onto a soil area in the forest or on a mud road. So this is the soil which will remain in colloidal form. So this is not good for growing plants. Quite often when you buy plants from the nursery, it will be this sticky clay which is there, because those plants are transported over long distances from Kerala or from Tamil Nadu or elsewhere, Hyderabad. And for them to hold water till the truck reaches in Goa, it is put into the sticky soil so that the plant survives. When you get the plant home, it's good to remove the soil and to add loam soil to the pot to grow it. This will remain like a sticky ball. The plant will be alive, but the plant will not grow up. Often you wonder, I put the graft here into the ground and it's not growing. It's often due to the soil. So this is something that we need to pay attention, especially while potting a plant, because this is almost all the soil that will be there with it. Next one, please. So the infiltration will depend on the type of soil that you have. If you have more of gravel and sand, the water will enter quickly through it and all the water will come out. If you have fine sand, you can see there are 5 drops on top, just 4 below. Part of the water will be retained here. And if it's clay soil, most of the water will remain in the clay. It will go down very slowly and very little will come out of that. Also the speeds through which it goes, this will go maybe in 2 minutes, this would take 5 minutes, and this may take 2 or 3 hours to sink in the water, the percolation. Next one. So when all the water which is put into the pot has drained out from the drainage hole, the water that is remaining in the pot is good for the plant, and that is known as the filled capacity. So that is the level that we need to have the soil, and therefore the drainage hole is very important, that the water should be allowed to drain out. Then only the soil will reach filled capacity, in which the fine pores in the clay are filled with water, and the big pores, which are sand and grit, goes out. Next one. So saturation is a time when all the spaces which are there between the particles of soil are filled with water, and there is excess, which either floods on top or drains out. At filled capacity, all the big pores which are there will drain out, and wherever there are fine particles, only the water will remain, and that's filled capacity. When all the water is drained out, this is built in, all the water will not drain out through the hole. Most of it will evaporate up into the air due to the sunlight. So when evaporation is complete and drainage is complete, then you reach wilting point where the plant will begin to droop. So this is a diagrammatic representation for you to understand when you need to water. When it's gone from this level to lower, you need to water, and if it's remaining in saturation point, you need to check the drainage. Okay, next one. So to make the soil, we use a combination of cocoa peat or the rust from coconut, and we use soil, and we may add sand or grit according to the requirement. Next one. Something that we require, the tools that we require, we'll see that in detail the next time, tomorrow. A watering can. Next one, please. It's a roll cut, and this is one a clipper, and very rarely you require shear, which has a groove here to cut bigger branches. Next one. So the trowel is an important tool, and this is a weeding hook in case there are weeds growing around the plant to take them out. These cutters were used earlier, but they tend to bend the cutting, so we don't use anymore. Next one. A better sprayer with a hand compression lever on top, which you can use just like a cycle pump and works very well. Next. So this is how they actually learn potting hands-on. The plant is there, the stake is there, and how the soil is to be filled initially. Next. Planting, whether you're planting it in a pot or elsewhere, the important part is to remove the bag. It's very important. The bag is here. Bag has to be removed, and then the planting. Next. Okay, so this is what we are going to look at, how to do tomorrow, how the planting process actually is to be done in the pot, spotting on. Next one. This is the organic process, which we'll discuss tomorrow again. Next. Compost is one of the important part of growing organically. Again, we'll discuss that tomorrow. The compost, how it looks, the good compost. Next. And we'll be talking about how to do things organically without using too many chemicals for everything. Next one. These particular things, 5 years back, were not available here in Goa. Today they are, and we will see how to use them. Next. The trap, especially for mango, not to get the worms in the ripe fruit. Simple traps, we will discuss this. Next. You can see the fruit flies which are dead over here. We'll discuss this. Next one, please. And how to control different kinds of fungus using bacteria. This Pseudomonas is a bacteria which controls the fungus that gives you the problem. And finally, why we need to do gardening, that we will see. Next one. This is the theme on which we work. All of us are co-learners, and this is collaborative learning that we are doing. Not I as a teacher and you as learners. We will share information. And thank you very much. Next month. So thank you for being here, and I hand you back to Sheena. No, I can read them and answer also. Do we have the time? Okay. The first question was, how do I know which kind? Sorry, more. Here's a question from Alkatamle, which says, do they need to be grafts or can they be grown from normal seedlings? Any plant can be grown, but the grafts will tend to give you the fruit faster. Seedling have got a juvenile phase. Now, if it's papaya, it's going to be a seedling. But if it's banana, it's going to be a sucker. If it's mango, it has to be a graft. Because mango seedling, then you'll be waiting endlessly and you don't know what kind of fruit you'll get. So depending on what type of plant, then you choose whether it's going to be a seedling or a graft. The question from Marian Nazareth says, my organic mango crop, when the fruit ripen, around 20% have maggots. Very distressing. The thing that I'll be talking about tomorrow, what briefly I said, the pheromone trap is very important. One trap is enough to protect 5 trees. It has to be put 1 month before you are going to harvest the mangoes. Or when the mangoes are the size that they would ripen, but they're still green. That's the time you need to put a trap. You can put it a little bit earlier. I use pheromone trap and we don't have any maggots in the fruit. Many people have used, and it's possible to have completely maggot-free mangoes just using the pheromone trap. So possibly this is not there in the process. Okay, contact numbers you can share. Is there a calendar for best time to plant? There is a biodynamic calendar which you can follow. It's based on lunar and solar movements, which time of the day and when to plant. Depending on the lunar calendar, you have the phases of the moon, different gravitational forces, and which works best. There's a calendar. You know, maybe the local people also don't cut bamboos on certain times because they say it will get borrowed. It's just the amount of sap that is there at high tide or full moon time and new moon times. You normally do the harvesting in between. So this is important. In some climatic adaptation of plants, varieties for places outside Goa would be helpful. Yeah, what happens is when you're talking of coastal area, it's 1 cup of tea. And when you're talking about interior like Bhopal, it's different. You need to take a package which is for the elevation, for the kind of climate you have there. Possibly locally written books are good. Therefore, even the ICR has the Central Coastal Agriculture Research Institute separate for the entire coast. It doesn't work interior. Like I will tell you, Mankurad mango is ready in March, April, and I know in Bangalore it is June, July. Same mango, same graft taken from my house, planted there. It's a different time because of the temperature differences. When it flowers, everything changes. So agriculture, unfortunately, has to be locally decided or based on the temperature and other climatic conditions. Scientific name of blueberry, definitely we can share with you. How do I have to keep trees growing in a pot? The important thing is if you're growing in a pot, you have to prune it. You have to trim it and keep it in shape. When to trim is also very important. So we have to look at the season which is warm, like February, March, April, May, June, depending on what kind of fruit crop to prune it. You should not normally prune things during the winter months, not really severe winter in Goa, but other places important. But even here in Goa, December and January, we don't normally prune trees. Is it absolutely necessary to transfer to the ground? Not. You can keep it. People have been growing bonsais for 50 years and 100 years. You can also keep it there. But the quality and quantity of fruit that you will get will reduce. If you are able to bear with that, that's fine. Because bonsai, you are looking at the beauty of the plant. Whereas if it's a potted plant for fruit, you want to get the fruits. So that will change. And of course, the care you take. But it's possible to keep a potted plant in a pot for a very long time. After how many years can we expect a mango tree to give mangoes in a pot? Next year. You plant this year, next year you should get mangoes. And it should be a graft. You can grow papaya plant in a pot. You can use a 2-foot diameter pot, or you can use a 50-liter bucket, drum, can to grow it. The important thing is to put a heavy stone at the bottom so that it can support the weight of the plant that is growing up. Or you need to tie the pot to a stake or a rod or something because the papaya plant is going to have the weight right on top, a single pole. So it will tend to topple over. So the weight of your pot is important. If you're using an RCC pot, no problem. 2-foot diameter RCC pot, you can grow your papaya very comfortably there. How many crops do we get a year for different types of fruits? If it's chiku, it's 2 crops. If it's mango, it's going to be 1 crop. Limes, you can get 3, you can get 4 crops. You have to do the bahar treatment of denying it water, and you can control it. If you can dry the soil up, you can get 3 or 4 crops of limes, lemons. Chikus, normally 2. Others, how they behave on the ground, that's the way they'll behave. How long does a mulberry and custard apple take to bear? Mulberry will normally bear in 4 months' time from the time you put it to root. I had used mulberry cuttings for staking my tomato plants, and we have harvested the tomatoes after 3 months. In the 4th month, we have mulberries there on the plant. So mulberry gives you very easily. Custard apple, expect this in the 2nd year. Yeah, that's nice information. Alice Dilemma has a papaya plant in a pot. You can get good papayas in a pot. How to avoid slugs from multiplying, and also termites. For termites, if you apply lime, tuna or Nero, they will go away. Lime, termites and even ants will go away. For slugs, the best thing to do is to put your waste cabbage leaves from the market, you can go, or even the cabbage leaves that you peel, put them out in the evening and collect them in the morning. All the slugs will be on the cabbage leaves. You can put them into boiling water, squash them or anything and get rid of it. Otherwise, slugs can be a big problem. Can challenge introduced to this plant of growing nurseries? Definitely. We have done this at Sanjay School in 2017. The students, Priyanka, Vandit, Pinky, and Elijah, have trained the students how to grow vegetables, make their own kitchen garden. I was myself taken aback when I learned to know that slow learners sometimes have higher IQs than I have. It's just that they don't have their mind on learning what is taught in school or told by others. They have their own mind. So slow learners, quite often we think, are people who have got very low IQs. There are people who are 80% blind but can climb a coconut tree. We had one person doing that. You have people who are deaf who are very good gardeners. So children who are differently challenged, Sunday school was a learning process for us. For 1 year, we taught them how to do. And I think more than what they learned, we learned about what a challenged child is. Because we normally have various concepts in our mind. A challenged child is low IQ, dumb, won't be able to do anything. Not. Some of them got terrific memories. You tell them once, they can remember, which for any other child you would maybe have to repeat 4 or 5 times. So definitely we can do for that, and you can interact with Sanjay School. Go on. Black cotton soil is very clay, so you need to add sand or something to help it to drain. Coco peat helps both to hold water as well as to help in drainage, but the size is bigger. Which is a better soil? The soil that holds a little bit of water, drains most of the water, is the best soil. We call it as loam, a mixture of sand, silt, and clay. If not, even sand and clay also a mixture will do. But the important thing that at least half the water that you add should drain out if you pour extra water into the pot. For snails, same thing as slugs, use cabbage leaves. There's lots of information about natural repellents, and I would suggest that you could also join the AgriCourse alumni sessions on Sundays at 4 o'clock, where everything is taught in organic. Normally we use things like neem oil as a repellent. Tuna is a repellent for white ants. So you can have different kinds of repellents. Lemongrass, possibly where you have transported it, maybe not be enough water holding capacity, it needs water. And don't bury it deep. Just put the roots into the soil. It's a grass. The soil should not go amongst the leaves because it will start rotting and then it will die. So lemongrass, you have to be careful. Same thing when you're transplanting pineapple and I think shouldn't put soil into the ground. Making grafts, the best thing is to go and learn with a Mali. If you want to do mango grafts, good to go to one of the agriculture offices or farms or go to Keji and learn hands-on. Apprenticeship is the best way to learn grafting. Strawberry plants are available with almost all nurseries in Goa, I think elsewhere also. Mango flower drop may be due to lack of water, hot air, change in temperature, that could be. Lucius Almeida says the soil is rocky. If it's rocky soil, please add common salt. It will crack the rock, soften it, and make it into soil. Then you dig the pit at the bottom, put half a kilo of salt, put some coconut husk over it, and it will soften the soil below. Dying quite often in papaya is due to virus problem. Just check for it. Tomatoes are best grown from seed. Cuttings are possible, but not the best way to do it. Up to what height can I allow a tree to grow in a house? That if you are doing in the pot, maximum 3 times the height. So if you're using a 2-foot high pot, then up to 6 feet high, you can have the plant. Lemon tree from seed may take you 8 years. So if you have finished 5, you may have to wait another 3 years. Better to take a cutting from a bearing lemon tree and get the lemons the next year. I would suggest that you avoid use seedlings in lemon. Ludina Pinto asks what organic pesticides and insecticides can be prepared at home. Very easily what you can prepare is panchpatti or daspatti. Uses leaves of things like neem and rui, that's calotropis, and garnere, lantana. So this thing, if you just search for panchpatti and daspatti, if you Google it, you will get, because our students have been doing it and they have been posting about it also. Growing of papaya is a problem because papayas tend to get virus syndrome. The red color papayas grow easily. The papayas which are yellow and orange color are very susceptible to this. Good idea is to spray oil on them. 1 teaspoonful of oil, that's 5 ml, a pinch of detergent, add 1 liter water, it will become into an emulsion, then spray. From the second month, every month if you spray, then this virus problem is reduced. So you could use that. Chiku grafts, I think you're based in Margao, so you can get very easily with the Kakoda farms, Agri-Horti Center, so that would be good. Zam also they should have. Otherwise, Zam is available with East West Nursery in Verna. Pheromone trap can be put under the tree or it can be put a few feet away from the tree. Important is the height at which the pheromone trap is put. If it's for mango fruit fly, then chest height. That's the level at which most of them move, so they will get a smell faster and do it. If you are doing it for coconut and other plants, for rhinoceros beetle and all, it's good to put it low at 1 foot height. So depending on what you want to trap, I presume you're talking about mango fruit fly trap, then chest height. You need not put it on the mango tree. You can put it on any other tree. Preferably avoid exposure to direct sun, because then the pheromone will get exhausted faster. Learning to graft an avocado plant is a skill. You will have to go to some agriculture farm or somewhere where people do grafting and learn it. It's a skill. You can possibly learn it online. Architect Duri has learned it by looking at YouTubes. You can learn it, but it's basically a skill. So you need to practice it. Papaya plants, what I said is the spraying of oil emulsion is important because of the virus syndrome. Leaf curl virus and ring spot virus, that's a common problem. If you search for papaya virus, you will get the details of how to handle that. Is there a way of sweetening papaya? If you have the papaya fruits already getting mature, then you can spray 2% of muriate of potash, that's the potash fertilizer, 20 grams, about one spoonful, tablespoonful level in 1 liter of water, just spray it on the fruit and leaves, tends to sweeten by changing the osmotic potential. And of course, don't overwater and don't use urea or nitrogenous fertilizer when the fruit is there on the papaya. In case of clay soil for balancing, what you'll use is the coarse sand, the thicker sand that you use normally for cement plastering. The coarse sand is good. The bigger the grain, better. Strawberries grow in Goa. They grow in coastal area, quite acclimatized. Only winter season, you get a crop between February and April. So that can be grown. Daffodils, Kalamut says, are going to have any course in planting. Unfortunately, all training right now is online. I would suggest that you join the Agriculture Alumni Association. You can look it up on Facebook, also on YouTube. Already we have had 33 sessions. We had one just today, ending at 5:30. So you can join that every Sunday, 4 to 5. So that will be a good place to learn, and it's entirely organic. Leslie Pereira asked whether I have a nursery. No, I do consultancy for people doing farms or those who are having problems with their crops, the solutions. Nurseries, there are plenty in Goa. Papaya can be grown, Glenda Fernandez, papaya can be grown in a pot. The bigger the pot, the better. 2-foot diameter minimum, 50 liters, 75 liters, or half a barrel, 200 liters barrel, half a barrel of that also is very good. With soursop, normally you have an associated problem because of the spines outside of mealy bugs. Use a soft bristles toothbrush, either old one, used one, or new one. Hold the fruit and just clean off that white maida-like thing on that. That is a problem which will blacken the fruit, and the fruit will quite often drop. And it will also attract black ants for the sweet piece. It's almost like this mealybugs have got diabetes. Their piece is very sweet, and the ants come to eat that. For a sourline, 2-foot pot is good enough. Yes, you can grow pineapples in pots. I have grown myself. Single plant per pot though. Yeah, fruiting of plants, manuring is very important. For mangoes and such fruit plants, manuring should end by first week of August. The timing is important. If you apply the manure late, it will give you leaves and no fruit. If it's cashew plant, you can manure anytime because cashew plant gives you leaves and flowers together. Okay, so that can be used. Yes, I do give hands-on training. In fact, we used to conduct a lot of hands-on training till COVID came about. Cherry tomatoes, staking is important because the plant tends to fall off and you will get fungal problems quite often, leaves burning out and all. Good to spray Pseudomonas on that. We'll discuss about that tomorrow in detail. Papaya plants normally give you papaya within the year.
I think there are quite a lot of questions. So I can do one thing. I'll send you the text of all these questions. Maybe you can try to answer them tomorrow before the session starts. Will that be
Yeah, I
okay?
can do that tomorrow. I can do that tomorrow morning and we can put it out.
Or else, yeah, you can just type in all the answers and then you can send it to me. I'll upload it on the website. People can have their answers there.
Can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just send me all the questions, we'll do that.
Yeah, I can send you all the
Yeah,
questions.
but there's a whole list of questions now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
quite a lot many there.
quite a lot, yeah.
And we are already like reaching the time limit. So,
Right, yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Frederick, you want to take over? Okay, fine. You tell.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone. For all those who didn't get a chance to ask the questions, and like we are soon ending the meeting now. So if you all still have any questions, you can send those to the WhatsApp number, which you all got the link in the morning. Okay, I'll forward it to Sir Mingan. Thank you.
You mentioned a website.
Yeah, I mentioned a website, Collaborative Learning Cafe. I'll be uploading the PDF of the answers there by tomorrow. Like once Mingle sir finishes answering all those, and like after he sends me the file, I'll upload it there, and maybe I'll drop in a text to you all saying that so and so is the link where you all can find it.
Thank you so much.